Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are taking a massive step back. We're zooming all the way out from our own personal internal feelings, right up to a concrete, actionable blueprint for global harmony. We're going to take a really close look at the Universal Human Values Framework. It's essentially a structured way to understand exactly how we could build a truly undivided society.
But before we start throwing around solutions, I want you to think about a pretty wild paradox. We have more skyscrapers, way more advanced technology, and literally more sheer wealth than at any point in human history. Yet, if you look around, we seem to have less continuous happiness and definitely a whole lot more fear and anxiety. So why is that? Keep that question in the back of your mind, because the framework we're unpacking today hits on it directly.
Okay, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by looking at love and the undivided society. Then lay out the comprehensive human goal. After that, we'll do a quick reality check on society today. Uncover the roots of true fearlessness, explore the 5 dimensions of endeavor, and finally, wrap things up with how we actually achieve sustainable happiness for all.
All right, diving into Section 1, Love and the Undivided Society.
Any massive global shift in society has to start incredibly small. It has to start at the micro level with an individual feeling. Now, when we say the word love in this framework, we are not talking about a fleeting romantic emotion or some cheesy Hollywood movie trope. The source material defines love as the complete value. It's this profound, deep-seated feeling of relatedness to all human beings. It's the realization that you are fundamentally connected to the rest of humanity. And this specific feeling, it's the absolute bedrock for what the text calls Akhanda Samaja, a totally undivided society.
Of course, this doesn't just happen overnight, right? It's a structured expansion. Step 1 is recognizing your connectedness with just one individual, like a family member or a close friend. Once you've really established that genuine affection, step 2 is slowly expanding that feeling outward to the broader world family. And finally, step 3 is active participation in the universal human order. You basically can't build a united world without first feeling united with the person standing right next to you.
Moving right along to Section 2, the comprehensive human goal.
So, once we have that foundational feeling of love and relatedness locked in, we need a blueprint. What are we actually trying to achieve here? Well, the framework sets out 4 interconnected goals, perfectly mapped to the 4 levels of our existence. First, in every individual, we need right understanding. Second, in every family, we need prosperity. Third, in society, we need fearlessness and trust. And fourth, in nature, we need coexistence. It's incredibly elegant because each level naturally supports the next one up.
I do want to pause on that second goal for a second, the idea of prosperity in the family. We desperately need to redefine our terms here. Actually, the sources make a stark distinction between wealth and prosperity. Wealth is just the physical accumulation of things, money, cars, the latest gadgets. You could literally be hoarding stuff like a dragon on a pile of gold and still feel entirely deprived if you're terrified of losing it. Prosperity, on the other hand, is a state of mind. It's the feeling of having or being able to easily produce more than your required physical facilities. Prosperity means you feel you have enough, to the point where you naturally want to share it.
Which brings us to Section 3. Time for a reality check on society today.
We've just looked at this beautiful, deeply logical framework for a harmonious world. But how does that compare to the world we actually wake up in every morning? Sadly, our current reality is a pretty fractured mirror of that comprehensive human goal. At the individual level, instead of right understanding, we're seeing rising depression, anxiety, and stress. In the family, instead of prosperity and unity, we see broken relationships. Out in society, instead of fearlessness and trust, we are dealing with wars, terrorism, and ethnic struggles. And in nature, instead of coexistence, well, we have global warming and rapid resource depletion. It's safe to say that all of this stems from ignoring that core right understanding and obsessing purely over accumulating physical stuff.
Let's look at Section 4, the roots of true fearlessness. If our society right now is defined by anxiety and division, how do we reverse engineer that to create peace? The key lies in understanding a concept called abhaya, or fearlessness. Now, this is not just the absence of being scared. It is a permanent, active state of mutual trust in society. Think about it. Right now, modern nations try to achieve peace by building bigger weapons and accumulating strategic military power. That doesn't create fearlessness. It just creates a heavily armed standoff. True fearlessness only happens when every single member of society feels related to everyone else through mutual trust.
And here is how that trust is actually built. You can't just legislate it. It follows a very strict logical sequence.
Step 1. You absolutely must ensure right understanding at the individual level. Step 2. That understanding allows families to accurately assess what they actually need and achieve true prosperity. It's only when individuals are secure in their minds and families are secure in their prosperity that you can even hope to achieve Step 3. Fearlessness and mutual trust at the societal level. You simply cannot force societal trust without those first two pillars firmly in place.
On to Section 5, the 5 dimensions of endeavor. So we know the goals, we know the sequence, but what is the practical toolkit to actually make this happen in our day-to-day lives? To create a humanistic society, or Manavya Vyavastha, we need to align 5 core dimensions. 1. Education and right living, to build that right understanding. 2. Health and self-regulation. 3. Justice and preservation for both human and environmental harmony. 4. Production and work to ensure our families are prosperous. And 5. Exchange and storage. These are not just isolated government departments. They are the highly interconnected gears of a healthy, functioning human order.
It's really interesting to contrast that 5th dimension, exchange and storage, between our current world and this ideal universal order. Today, our exchange systems are pretty much designed for maximum exploitation and endless accumulation of profit, right? But in a universal human order, exchange and storage exist purely for mutual fulfillment. When you shift your entire economic intent from exploiting your neighbor to fulfilling your neighbor's needs, you directly manufacture societal trust. You're literally building that fearlessness we were just talking about.
And finally, Section 6, Sustainable Happiness for All.
We've covered a ton of ground here, but it really all comes down to ensuring that the joy we seek isn't just a fleeting moment, but something continuous. The most vital takeaway from this entire framework is that the comprehensive human goal, right understanding, prosperity, fearlessness, and coexistence, is not a buffet. You don't get to just pick and choose. The sources heavily emphasize that this is the absolute minimum requirement for sustainable happiness. If you knock down even one pillar, like say you have prosperity but no coexistence with nature, or right understanding but zero societal trust, you immediately lose the continuity of happiness. These 4 pillars are both the bare minimum baseline and the absolute highest target for the human race. I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative thought. Working only for physical facilities, just eating, sleeping, and surviving, is defined in these texts as living in animal consciousness. True human consciousness means prioritizing right understanding first, followed by meaningful relationships, and then focusing on physical facilities. So take a hard look at your own daily pursuits. Are we simply building fancier caves with better technology? Or are we truly ready to transform our consciousness, embrace universal human values, and build a genuinely undivided society? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.